Bronze and Infinite. Yep. So they're trying to turn Nosdormu into Morrizonde. Again, we think about this, to what end? Are the Infinites trying to bring about the end time? That sort of appeared to be their goal, but maybe there's more there that we don't understand. Yeah. I have to imagine some of this stuff will be expanded. And I would be very welcome of that.
Same, yeah.
I think that the Infinites are really cool in concept, and there's a lot of cool directions they could go in, but it doesn't feel like a very simple, rooted in old gods thing is going to be the best overall way to take them.
No, they've clearly, like, trying to read vaguely between the lines of steered away from that big time.
I'm happy they've done that.
Yep.
So they stopped us from bringing back Tyr's memories, which again, what would we have seen that we now cannot see? Yep. With Eternus and Chromie, they were interesting in being like a bit amicable.
Yeah.
When they were stuck in that like big funny time vortex together.
Yeah, because I think historically every Infinite has been so like pure, so hardcore is the way to put it. They've been so diehard in their idea and their ambition. They've all seemed mental. They're like, clearly,
oh my god, the Dark Army, Mr. Robot, right? You know the way the Dark Army guys, like, especially if you kind of watch like season 2 and beyond, the Dark Army people are like so unbelievably hardcore and committed to their thing. And of course, if you've been towards the end of that, you will very much understand why, in a way that almost you could tie back to the Infinite Dragonflight. Yeah, it's like, holy there's like, there's a level of hardcore which is like, oh, this is not just like, this is no longer just what you believe. This is also who you are.
Yeah, they've all seemed to be completely inconvincible whatsoever. Like, they've seen shit that we'll never begin to understand, and they are on the right path, and they fully, truly believe that. In the same, like, kind of the way the light is all zealotry in that direction.
Yeah.
Of, no, we know what we have to do, and there's nothing you can say to stop us. They very much always felt that way, but now that's been pulled back on a little bit by Eternus being able to go, well, I can't really do anything here. I can't stop you. So, we've had our time. I'll have to leave now. Whereas I think a lot of the other Infinites would have been, no, I'll die here trying to get this done. Which to me feels a little bit of a pullback. And I sense that the Infinite not being villains forever, or pockets of them not being villains, or them at least being, a little more reasonable and amicable, in the sense of the Bronze and the Infinite are two sides of the same coin, because Blizzard have largely tried to move away from good and evil. Yeah, even as we see with the Primalists, and it's, oh, well, it's Razageth versus Alex, and Razageth going, Alex, you did us wrong. I'm going to kill you all. And Alex is like, yeah, we couldn't find peace. And you could see the Bronze and Infinite going, is there a way that this isn't just like a binary? Is there something in the middle?
So I guess what I'd put to the audience is, if you're just purely backed into a corner doing good versus evil, you end up in a bit of a Star Wars problem. Because, like, they were really done by Empire Strikes Back. Jedi is like a bit of a rehash. Like, it has cool moments and stuff, obviously. And then in the first movie, in the prequels, I guess, very much stumbling, he tries to make it, like, obviously Lucas they're still good versus evil, of course, but it's more about, like, society falling prey to things. Unfortunately, it wasn't really great as movies. And then, in the new ones, they try to just do good and evil again. And it's really hard when they're always just doing good versus evil, like, fucking hell, how do we find the gray in this, like, the really good stuff? And I feel like for a lot of the Star Wars fans' perspective, it's like some things like Clone Wars and stuff is where they've been able to make things a bit more grey.
Yep.
And I think decently notably, like Mandalorians, a bunch of bounty hunters, a bit more grey there. Andor, a bit more grey with him. And that's a show that I think people are absolutely loving right now. And I just use Star Wars because it's like it's a cultural touch point that everybody knows. When you're kind of so that's the thing. Good versus evil, like, it can feel great and be super fun when it's like demons and Nazis and shit.
Yeah, it's good.
Right? Like, Wolfenstein.
Yeah, demons versus Nazis. Which one's a good guy?
Demons in that case.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's really interesting if you're taking that from a theological perspective about, like, the demons are fallen angels, but I think there's a bit in, I forget the name, like the Hebrew Bible? Is it Old Testament? some weird shit. But I suppose technically you could say that if demons are sort of in a way a little bit of a part of the big plan,
Yeah.
then that actually means that they're still working towards a good. Versus the Nazis, which of course were working towards
some shit.
I mean, yeah, apparently
shit,
getting
like.
into the inside of the Earth, Antarctica, and
The moon?
aliens.
Moonbase, yeah.
Yeah, Moonbase. Moonbase, as we of course visited in Wolfenstein. Fuck, I need to play new Wolfenstein games. I only played the first one.
You're okay playing the first one, calling it a day. It's not terrible, but it's like you're not really. It's not amazing. I think it was Akaria put it very, very well there in regards to Star Wars. It's why the expanded universe was better. A lot more creative potential and nuance.
Yeah,
That's a great line. More creative potential and nuance for sure.
yeah. I mean, honestly, like doing demons versus Nazis would be a pretty hard movie to make interesting, other than the visuals,
Yeah,
because it would probably look insane.
sure would.
So there you go. We've worked multiple things out this day. Incredible.
Yeah.
I like it though. I like the graying of things. And I know for a lot of people, they turn around, they're like, look, I just wanted my sort of iconic heroes and, you know, the older way. And I'd say that, you know, with the older way, old Warcraft still had a lot of gray. That was like a lot of the point of the Horde.
Yeah.
And the, you know, the Alliance versus Horde stuff. It had a pure evil looming in the Legion, and I think that's what made it successful. And,
Yeah, it had both basically.
Yeah, I think it's just getting the right balance, and I think whenever you try to make things grey in a way that feels like it's kind of disrespecting the older lore, then then it's a bit troublesome. And it's kind of funny, like even if you take like one of the, and goddamn, it's through such a clunky plot line. Thank you, Ryan Johnson. But, you know, like the bit in Last Jedi, which, again, is also a flawed movie, as is the one after it, Jesus Christ. But the one bit where you're like, oh, hang on, are you trying to speak to there being a bigger world here? Or all the characters getting depressed where the arms dealer is selling to both sides?
Yeah.
And, like, that was one of those things where it's like, did this work in this movie? No, this movie's a bloated mess. But is there, like, a good idea here that could, like, build out the universe and make it more interesting? Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
The more that they're doing that in WoW, I think the better.
Yeah.
I think, you know, characters like Illyria and Torellian, it's good to have them there as like personifications of these bigger things. And ultimately the problem, like, I guess whenever we were lazy when we said cosmic, because when we say cosmic, I think we just meant like big, not relatable, and not characterful.
Yeah, it's abstract as opposed to real.
Yeah, and told to us by like weird robot people.
Yeah.
That believe in a prophecy. And I feel like if you just explore these things through characters, in maybe the way that they're trying to go from sort of here on with this expansion, then I like all of those concepts. So some other things then. Is Eternus Chromie?
Yeah, that's the one thing that seems
Who's trying
like,
to kill Chromie?
Yeah, that's one thing that hasn't been touched upon.
Yeah, and it was teased.
Yeah, so if Chromie is super, super, super important, then maybe Chromie and Eternus are maybe Chromie and then her becoming Eternus is basically the crux to the Bronze and the Infinite becoming mates.
But remember one thing.
Only one thing?
No. Fuck. Who is trying to kill Chromie? What forces were it? Because I know that the dragons, and watch our episode on Nosdormu from the War series, but I know that like dragons would be snatched.
Yeah.
Bronzes would be kind of snatched and killed, or, you know, would return wounded, because in the future, it's like Christopher Nolan and his inverted temporal pincer or some shit. But like the Infinites try to kill the Bronzes that they knew would stand against them when they made their turn, because, you know, it's all weird time chess. So, you know, then that's kind of interesting if the Deaths of Chromie ends up not actually being an Infinite trying to kill her. But Infinites are involved in the Deaths of Chromie.
Yeah, it's weird. I think her being Eternus would make sense, but it also makes sense if it's just her counterpart in the Infinite, as was Lily.
Yeah.
Because as Ascendant puts out, they look nothing alike. And I think Blizzard would definitely go to the lengths to make them look alike. And then, you know, obviously, Chromie's not going to look at Eternus and go, "You look an awful lot like me in dragon form." They'll be like, well, you're an Infinite. You're different enough. So, but I imagine it's like, it'll be something like that, where maybe maybe not her, but the fact that they're amicable now means that they'll be able to see. So Chromie being willing to be the one who bridges a gap between Bronze and Infinite would very much mean you could see how an antagonistic force would want to kill her. Even that being an Infinite now, because obviously the Infinites can come from any point in time.
That's the thing.
And that's the thing that's really hard to wrap your head around, is because if the Infinites will have to have a change of heart to not be bad guys anymore, or some of them will. But if you exist through time, how do you make that possible? And that'll be hard for them to get players to understand and feel.
This comes a bit philosophical.
Yeah.
You know, do we live in, you know, is it like one deterministic universe where, you know, based on the, you know, the base properties at the start, it's just going to wind out in the way that it does with nobody having any real free will, only the illusion of it? Or, you know, are you going to go in maybe more of a sort of a many worlds thing?
Yeah.
Because all of these things are sort of important to the nuts and bolts of, or, you know, like...
It's important to the nuts and bolts, but Blizzard shouldn't have to go out of their way to explain this to us or tell us, I think.
They should roughly have a very clear picture. They should
at least give, like, just a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but they shouldn't labor trying to explain it, I think. I think he's able to go, all right, and just have a character offhand be like, oh yeah, this was always going to happen.
Well, so like the example is, it really helps to understand Warlords of Draenor when you basically know that whenever they did that magic, they caused the branch to happen.
Yeah.
And then you go back to that branch. That helps you understand how it's contained. And you know, this is the kind of thing that was, I think, just done on Twitter and everything. But yeah, anyway, the other one is Enormu, who we meet in Thaldraszus, who seems kind of off. And the Infinite Dragon in the Black Morass is called Aeornus. Aeornus.
Yeah, so that's the thing that I also thought was interesting, where it's like, I don't think we've ever seen a Bronze and an Infinite, or Bronze become an Infinite or whatever before in like a character way.
Eternus, Aeornus, so, the Ormu. Is that?
Well, what?
How much of the normal dragon naming continues on with the Bronzes? Because they tend to have the sort of the, you know, the Aeonus.
Yeah, that's I'm not entirely sure. I would need to look that up.
Yeah,
all I know is Eonormu and Aeonus. First, like, there's a lot of like Deus. So if it turns out they dropped the Ormu and became us instead, then that would line up of Aeonus being Eonormu. Because people were pointing out that he definitely acted weird. Something was definitely off with what he saw or where we pulled him from. In that quest, people like this. Like I saw people saying, I fully expected them to be like an antagonist in the campaign slightly later and go mental because of the behavior. And you're like, yeah, that's very much
and this is one of those things. If you just were, you know, in a big soup of consciousness, clicking through quests going forward, you wouldn't notice any of these things. But the point is, when you actually look for them, they are there. Also, you know, the developers have actually tried a lot.
Yeah. You know, John, that's very funny. Chronormu becomes Kronos, the main villain of Hades 2. But at the same time, if you're a writer going, okay, well, Normu becomes Aeonus, so that's how the Bronze swap to their Infinite. And then you go, Kronos? That immediately draws a connection of the Titan Kronos and all of the time stuff that is involved with that.
That's cool.
And you could literally, like, not even like, oh, this is some big brain shit, but literally the idea would form in your head of, yeah, maybe Chromie could be pretty important to time then. And then that goes, oh, well, yeah, Chromie obviously being character vibes. Fuck it, yeah, Chromie's going to save the timeline through being different to everyone else. And that's literally like everyone goes, yes, please. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, bros. You ready to talk about the sigils?
The sigils!
The sigils! The chucklers got the sigils!
Yeah. So basically, for Bronze Infinite, I feel it'll be two sides of the same coin. They'll find some camaraderie and at the end of it, and Murazon will turn out not to be a bad guy.
I'm actually pretty pumped for whatever that's coming.
I'm super happy for it, especially because I imagine this will be like full like patch content. Oh man,
if I just got a full Bronze patch, I would be thrilled.
It's like I see people pointing out, and I noticed
big time walking feature.
There's that. I mean, that's how they could introduce it in a really way that feels fucking fantastic. But also, look at the map. On older maps and on the map that Wowhead has, this is interesting. The map that Wowhead's like, you know, wherever they pin stuff on a map. For thing. Yeah. I was looking at the position of some things, I don't know if they're using an old version of the map or something from beta, but there's no hourglass where the temporal conflux is. But that's on live, which means at some point they had a map that was perfectly fine. And then they drew the fucking temporal conflux on it, which is the big goddamn hourglass. And there ain't shit around that area, right? Behind the temporal conflux, where obviously that is clearly doors that don't open, they lead into somewhere very huge, probably. I think there's a second of Caverns of Time in there. And that's where because there's a load of mountain range there that's no one's going, like, there's nothing there.
I mean, look, you could walk out the other end and be in Tanaris and nobody would really bat an eyelid.
Yeah, so I think there's probably a second Caverns of Time in there that we'll get in Temple 2
or maybe
Temple
it's
3.
another way to get to the Caverns of Time. Because,
Maybe, yeah.
you know, like, who knows where the Caverns of Time really are? All we know is that the entrance is in a rock in Tanaris. Not in a rock in a place. So,